Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. My name is Chris Kalaboukis, and we're once again coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation, startups, the future. Not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you can be notified when a new show comes online. And if you're listening on a favorite podcast service, please subscribe. And please drop a note on Apple Podcasts. I'd greatly appreciate it. So today we're going to talk a little bit about social media. And what was the first social media site that you can think of? What was it? AOL? Was it message boards? Was it Reddit? Was it, I don't know, MySpace? I don't know. Social media has been around for a really long time, right? I mean, it's been around since longer than Facebook. Facebook has been around since 2008. iPhones have been around since 2008. Social media has been around for longer than that. Peer-to-peer communications, like Slack and Teams and Facebook Messenger, those have been around even longer, since they invented them with ICQ. So, why am I telling you this? Well, because it's interesting. I've noticed that there's this evolution of social media. And the evolution of social media seems to go like this. A new type of social media is invented. Let's take podcasting, for example. Podcasting is invented in 2005. And what podcasting does is it allows individuals like you or I, just regular Joes on the street, people who don't have a lot of technical knowledge. And let me just say that the internet allows this thing to happen. If we didn't have the ability to do peer-to-peer communication between each individual to every other individual on the planet like we do with the internet, then this wouldn't be possible. But like I said, that's already in place. The foundation is there for peer-to-peer communications. So podcasting is invented, and the concept behind podcasting is that anybody who wants to can create an audio file, and any of these audio files can be placed online, and anyone else on the internet can listen to these audio files. And it cobbled together a number of technologies, so MP3 files and RSS feeds, real simple syndication, which took those two concepts and melded them together and said, I'm going to produce a audio program in MP3. I'm going to place it on a server, and then someone else can subscribe to that show. And every time I post using RSS, and every time I post, the podcaster posts a new show, someone else on the internet can download that show because the RSS feed has said, hey, guess what? There's a new show. So there's software on both ends. There's software to create the MP3 and upload it to someplace. And then there's software at the other end to subscribe to a show and then check to see if there's a new show, then download that show and allow it to be played. The original podcatchers didn't have the ability to play the show, but now they all have the ability to play a show. So that was the ultimate start for this type of social media. And it was one person creating something, placing it on a server, and another person being able to find it and listen to it. Now, the big problem was finding it, right? So back then, you really had to know how to get to that show. Your podcatcher had to have an RSS link to be able to get to that RSS feed so you can check it to see if there was a new show over and over and over again. So it was really a one-to-one type of communication. So what ended up happening is that it was very difficult to find shows because a lot of times you didn't know where they were. So a number of directories came up. I remember there was Yahoo Podcasts. There was a number of directories which basically listed the podcasts that you could listen to. And you would go in there and you would search for the podcast and you would say, oh, I'm interested in business or technology or the future or innovation or whatever. And it would pull up a list of podcasts that had that information in it. So this was great. So it was just a simple directory. I could go in, I could search, I could say, okay, I'm looking for this, 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 this. And I would be able to find other podcasts. I would subscribe to them, and audiences grew. And you had regular people like you and me, not Disney, not Warner Brothers, not some big conglomerate media company, creating content, and other people could listen to the content. It was great. For when it first started, people were creating the content and people were listening to the content. It wasn't giant corporate people, not giant corporations creating content and people listening to content. It was people creating content and people listening to content. What ended up happening? Well, eventually, over time, this stuff got really, really popular. So what happened? Well, the big media company said, hang on a second, I need to get in on that action too. So they started creating all sorts of content of their own. So they flooded the market with all of this supposedly popular content, this head content, crowding out the rest of us. And all those companies that had directories, whether it was Yahoo Podcasts or Google or Apple Podcasts or whoever, they make more money off of the head content. They make more money off the big media. So they start featuring big media to the detriment of the rest of us. And their algorithms push us further and further and further and further down until you go to Apple Podcasts now. Good luck finding me unless you actually search for Think Future. Good luck finding me unless you actually search for Calabucas. This happens in every type of social media. This happened in Twitter. This happened in Facebook. This happened in MySpace. This happened in TikTok. This happened in Instagram. This happens in every single social media platform. Happens the same way. When it first starts out, it's people talking to people. It's people creating content for people to consume. It's a one-to-one, great content being created and listened to. Great content being created and watched. Great content being created and streamed. YouTube is the same. Great content being created and watched. But what ends up happening is that when the big companies come in, when the large media companies come in, they flood the place with their content and push the rest of us out. And all of these directory sites do the exact same thing. They push us out, whether it's type in LinkedIn blog posts, or whether it's YouTube and videos, or whether it's podcasting and Apple Podcasts. The exact same thing happens every single time. So what do we need to do? Look at Substack. There's another example. Look at Locals. There's another example. We need to keep on creating these content locations. We need to keep on creating social media and keep on moving to the next and the next and the next and the next, because only then we can be seen. But there is another solution to this. There is another solution to this. And if the big tech companies decide to undertake this other solution, then not only will they start featuring regular people again, but if you ask me, it'll be a lot more balanced. We'll get a lot more interesting views when we go searching for views on the internet. What we need is head and tail content, so the super corporate content like Disney, etc., and the regular Joe content like my stuff to be interconnected by these directories. If you like this particular Disney broadcast, maybe you'll like these 5 or 10 other podcasts that are created by regular people. Is that going to happen? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just saying that if we really want to make this amazing, we need to bring in regular podcasters, regular producers, regular content creators like you and me, and bring them in and match them up to the head content and say, here is some other stuff that you might want to watch as well. But will that ever happen? I don't know. So what do? We keep building new social media platforms. And what do content creators do? they go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, until they're so burned out, all they're doing is starting to build tools for the miners instead of mining. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.